Hi, everyone. This is Jamie Broderick from Network Now. I am with a new friend. Her name is Adrienne Dorison. Is that how you pronounce it, Adrienne?
That's it. Yeah, it's a hard name, but you got it.
Cool. Yeah. So today we're talking about the habits of successful entrepreneurs. You know, Adrienne, I can hear the...
It's a big, broad topic.
Yeah, it is. I can hear my voice echoing on your headset.
Not sure.
I'll lower my volume. So do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll launch into some of the takeaways for everyone?
Yeah, and let me know if you want me to pop out and pop back in. Sometimes that helps on the echo. I don't know why, because I have headphones in. So I'm Adrienne. I am a success strategist, as I call it, because I help people, mainly entrepreneurs, help them achieve more success in their life and in their business. I'm a podcast host, which has been a really fun opportunity to get to interview other extremely successful people and kind of dissect that and figure out what are the habits of success, and are there any? Are they different? Are they the same? Is there any commonalities? And those are some of the things that I am intrigued about and that I share with my clients and with people that listen to the podcast. So,
what's the name of the podcast?
The podcast is called The School of Self-Mastery. You can find it on iTunes, Stitcher, and on my website. So it's a 5-day-a-week podcast. So I'm live Monday through Friday. Yeah. So it's a big project. Yeah. And it's a fun project. So.
Okay. Well, let's hear from you first on what are your top success habits for entrepreneurs. Let's hear it, girl.
Yeah, so it's something that I've learned through the podcast and through my own journey, as well as working with clients, is that there are a few things that can help you become more successful, but the main habits of success are going to be very personalized. And so where I see people get tripped up is when they read the article on entrepreneur.com and they're like, I need to be a morning person, or I need to do meditation in the morning, and that's going to help me become successful. And while those things might be helpful, they might be your personal success habits, they're not like the key to unlocking your success, right? Like these things are very personalized, what's going to work for you and what's not going to work for you. And so the main thing that's going to work for you is taking action on something. I think that a lot of people sit in theory and think about what should I do, or what things are going to work for me, versus just going out and trying some of those things, instead of trying to say, I'm not a morning person, so therefore I'll never be successful, right? Or I have to force myself to be a morning person to be successful. And the truth is, I've interviewed people who are very successful and they don't like mornings, or they don't wake up early and have a morning routine, but they have figured out other things that work for them. And so it's kind of like a guess and check type of thing, but making sure that you are understanding what your goals are, what your results that you want to create, and is doing this thing going to help you achieve that. So for me, meditation, I'm not a great silent, like still meditator. But I know that some people have achieved great success and they attribute a lot of that to being able to meditate. But if that doesn't work for you, then that's not the direction to go, because there are certain people that it's actually worse for them to meditate, like scientifically proven that the chemicals in their brain are not meant to meditate. And so it's more about not beating yourself up about those things and figuring out what's the right combination for me, and are those things aligned with my goals. For me, the mornings are definitely a key to my success. Like I'm a huge advocate of The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. It's a great book. but you don't necessarily have to wake up early. It's just about being intentional. And so it's really it's less about the actual time or how you do the thing, but more about what you're intending to get out of that thing. Is it something that's going to move you in the direction of the results that you really want to create?
Yeah.
And that's going to be
when
really
I help
different.
people set goals, I'm always asking them, make sure you answer the question, why? Why do you want that goal? Because if it's not going to reach the big picture goal, why are we picking that path? Why are we focusing on that? But yeah, your point about taking action is so key. You need to sometimes just super glue yourself to the seat and get the work done, right?
Yeah, because, so and that's the key to, creating habits, creating good habits, is first taking action, first figuring out, is that thing really going to be aligned with the results I want to create? And if it is, even if it doesn't seem super appealing, we might need to test it out and try it anyways, because new habits are challenging. And I think that is something that people struggle with for sure when we think about habits and developing good habits and positive habits. If it doesn't work the first couple days, or if it doesn't feel good, then people stop doing it. And that is not the way to achieve real success. Like if doing that thing, whatever it is still in line with the results you want to create, then sometimes you need to do it for a month. Usually is a good amount of time to see, is it actually helping me move towards the results I want or not? And if it's not, then you can feel okay to let it go potentially. But if it is, you need to know that it's not necessarily easy to create new habits. Even though I'm a morning person, it's still very difficult to wake up super early on some days and get the morning routine done, right? But I know that has helped me in the past, and it's helped me to achieve some of my goals, and it is in alignment with what I want to create. And so it's not necessarily always going to be easy, and that just doesn't mean it's wrong, or it doesn't mean stop doing it. It means that you might need a little more support. And I think that sometimes people think that they should just easily create habits, or once they've done it for a month, it should be easy. And it's like, no, we're inherently forgetful. We're inherently going to feel different ways on different days. And so give yourself support systems for those habits too, because I like to create a habit of calling my dad every week, right? That's a habit that I want to have that helps me be in line with my goals of being a better daughter, right? A better family member. That's like a very simple example, but I don't remember to do it every week. So does that make me any better or any worse? No. And so I have an alarm in my phone every Friday that goes off.
Right.
Call
Love
Dad.
the alarm.
Doesn't make it wrong.
Yeah.
Doesn't make me any better or any worse that I'm forgetful, or that's not something I think about every day, even though maybe it should be, right? So let go of like what you should remember, what you should do, and set up support systems for the habits that you want to create, so that it is easier for you to create them. I was listening to Natalie McNeil
speak recently, and she was talking about an app called Streak, I believe. So you put.
Oh, I haven't heard of this. Is it like
to create a new habit? So every day that you do that new thing, you get, because you don't want to ruin your streak. So it like has some sort of visual where you'll have a break in your streak if you miss a day. So after a month of doing something, she says it becomes a habit without having to use the app anymore. But it's cool.
Yeah. So I would be curious to see if how many people. After a month, it does become a habit, but I like the visual. And I always give my clients like we have a monthly board where they can check off, like a chore chart. Exactly. Like they've done it. Streak app.
Yeah.
Patty put it in the, I'm going to look at that. I'm going to write that down. Because I think Patty alarms everything. Yeah, me too. I put an alarm on everything, which helps me do the things that I know I want to do. And once I do them for a while, then it does become an unconscious habit. But our day is run by about 40% unconscious habits. And so these are the things that we just do, like check our email, check our Facebook without even thinking to do it. And so we really want to make sure that those are the things we want to be doing during that unconscious time? And if they're not, how can we start developing new habits and doing things like the Streak app or putting alarms on things that's going to help you ease into new, more successful habits versus sitting in your inbox all day? That's an unconscious habit that people have. I have that habit, right? And so I have to like put boundaries around those things so that I can develop more successful habits, and really whatever successful means to you. And that's the beauty of success, is that it's very arbitrary. You get to define it, but that means I'm not going to tell you that this is the thing that's going to help you become successful, because I don't know what successful means to you, but you can define that and then link back. What are some habits that would help me create those types of results? And that's when people can come back and say to me, I mean, usually if you think critically about it, you could probably think of a few things, right? But, people will ask me, what if I want to do this? Well, here's some examples of things that you could do that are going to help lead you to that result. And I think that if we all sit down and brainstorm, we could think of the habits, but it's about putting those systems and structures in place as well. And having anchor habits, right? Like keystone habits that help you really ripple effect and create other ones. And that's the work of Charles Duhigg in his book, The Power of Habit, where he talks about keystone habits. So a keystone habit is going to be something that actually helps you create multiple habits that attach to that one habit. So just for the easiest example is working out and diet, because we all have that in our lives. Whether you own a business or not, you at least have something to do with eating and moving, right? And so if you're trying to, if the new habit is going to be that you work out 4 times a week, well, that's a habit that's actually going to help you sleep better. It's going to help you eat healthier, because when you feel better, you usually want to make those better choices. It probably will help you focus more when you're working, just because we know that exercise does that, as well as it's going to give you more energy. So you might have more energy to do your work. You're probably going to be a nicer person to be around. So you're going to develop better relationships. And so just doing that one thing helps you do all these other things. And you could think about some things in your business that might help you do more than one thing just by doing
that. Makes sense.
One
Not
thing.
Just about fitting into your jeans. Yeah, cool.
Exactly. Like it ripples into so many other different areas. And that's what we call a keystone habit, or like an anchor habit, that will really allow you to do so many other things that are related to just that one piece of the puzzle. And oftentimes we don't think about that. And I talk about this when I talk about goals too, because sometimes we have all these little goals, whereas if we could have like a keystone goal, or what I call a domino goal, that helps you actually knock down the other ones, right? So in business, this comes up all the time, where someone's like, I want to sign on 8 new clients. I want to run a webinar. I want to grow my email list. I want to be more active on social media. And I'm like, well, which one comes first, right? It's kind of like this like game you play with a child, but we overcomplicate everything as humans. And it's really very simple if we can like take a step back and say, which one of these comes first and will actually help us achieve the 8 clients, right? That's the end goal. Because all these other things don't really matter if we're not leading there, but all those other things can actually help us achieve that end goal of 8 clients if we don't try and do that one first. So setting them up right. Same thing with habits, goals, all ties in
Having
together.
A clear path and clarity on what to do first and what to focus on is huge. Yeah, a lot of entrepreneurs are running around with like a million thoughts in their head, and they're overwhelmed and not sure what to focus on first. I said, you can't do it all at once. So pick one thing to focus on, and the other stuff is going to happen, just not today. So,
yeah, it doesn't have to happen today. And I think that's the other, key to think about when you're thinking about habits is all the shoulds, right? Like, and we get hit with shoulds all the time. So none of these things is going to be a sure shot to becoming a successful entrepreneur. And so if you can take away the shoulds from your life, like I should be a morning. I had one client who said, like, I know, I should wake up earlier in the morning, but I have been, I've had 4 boys under the age of 2 for the last 10 years. And I just kind of want to sleep in until 7:30. And I was like, so sleep until 7:30 if that feels good, right? If that's what you want to do, if that's going to help you reach your goals. But if waking up an hour earlier and you're going to do something with that time that's going to move you towards your goals, then yeah, let's talk about that. But let's remove the guilt of should, because there's tons of things we feel like we should be doing. Like I had a conversation with Jason Van Orden the other day of Internet Business Mastery, and we were talking about Periscope. And I was like, yeah, I was watching you on Periscope for a while, but I haven't been on. And I said, I know I should be on, but when I said that out loud, I was like, but that really, to me, I couldn't think of a compelling reason to get on. Right. And so I shouldn't be on if I didn't want to be, or if I couldn't really say that was where I needed to be at the time, or that's like where I needed to spend my energy. I think that there's so many shoulds, and
a mindful could do this rather than a should. Yeah. So Patty, if you're on, by the way, you can join us on camera. So I always welcome my premium members of Network Now to come on camera, so that they can meet you face to face and ask questions and join into the conversation. Yeah.
Oh, very cool. So I love that. Yeah. So Patty, we'd love to have you. Speaking about habits is always interesting, because I always ask the people on my hey
girl.
I always ask the people on my podcast, externally successful people, like I said, what their top 3 success habits are. And I get such a varied response that it's really, to me, it's the permission slip for everyone to understand. Like, you don't have to meditate. You don't have to wake up early. You don't have to do anything, right? And so I think hearing from other people kind of helps my listeners really have that.
So let's ask Patty,
for sure.
Do you have 3 habits that help you, Patty, reach your goals?
I'm one of those obnoxiously early risers. So rising early is not an issue. I don't necessarily make the most of that time, but it's one of my more favorite times of the day. So I'd like to start taking a little bit more advantage of that time. You were talking about being healthy and healthy habits, and I have to admit, I've got a pint of ice cream.
I love it.
Whatever works.
It is Friday. I'm calling you. But I did get to my workout this week. I'm trying to think. I like to look for tips and tricks, and maybe this app is a good one as far as getting more done. My issues generally around habit are kind of staying focused. So some of my weird little tips for that, for myself, I do this for myself, and Jamie's going to laugh. I always use my Post-it notes. So I'll have this little stack of Post-it notes of what I want to do in the order that I want to do them. So I remind myself what I'm working on. And then when I'm done, I kind of peel it off and stick it to the other side of my keyboard here. So I can kind of see where I am at any given time, what I've done, and kind of feel that sense of accomplishment. So, I do waste a lot of paper and a lot of notepads, but yeah, there's that. But yeah, I think staying on task is a lot. I did, just as far as goals, I did start using, what is it called? I think it's called Rescue Time. Do you know what this is? So Rescue Time is it's kind of a little demon that's running around in the back. Sorry about that. In the back of my computer, tracking what I'm doing, how much time I'm spending on Facebook, how much time I'm in email or, different social media. So that's been interesting. I kind of recommend everybody do it. I don't believe I paid for it. It's up. I'll put the link.
There is a free version.
I guess I have a free version, but that's interesting just to kind of see the data on where you have been spending your time, and then it also helps me a little bit. I've been tracking my time and hours for all of my client work too, to just kind of vet I do a lot of retainer work. So I have to kind of figure out with my book of business how I'm spending my time and what I'm actually doing. But I don't know if I answered your question, but yeah, these are the things that I'm trying to get a hold of in my own business. Some of the things I struggle with as far as managing time, managing tasks, and having those kind of goals.
I think that's a lot of good ones. There's a lot of good ones there that you talked about, but one of the main things is the awareness, right? Like really being aware of where we're spending our time, that we are super distracted. Yeah. There are so many things to be distracted by in this, especially if you're in an internet business. It's easy to say I'm on Facebook and I'm working, right? But that's probably not always true, as well as, is that the time I've set aside to do that specific task? And some of the things that have helped myself and my clients are things like Pomodoro technique, which is like, there's a couple apps for this. You can search it, Pomodoro technique, Pomodoro, or there's an app called the 30/30 app. And what you do with that, if people aren't familiar, is you literally set a timer. You could do this you don't need the app. You could set a timer for 30 minutes. And you really focus on that one task for those 30 minutes. And then you get a 5-minute break. You go, walk around, get some water, take a bathroom break, whatever. Then you come back, you have another 30 minutes dedicated to the next task. And it really just helps you kind of plow through some stuff that would have taken you way longer if you're distracted. This is really good for people with ADD, who are kind of all over the place and can't focus. And so you set aside, okay, for this 30 minutes, I'm focusing on email and then I'm done. So I have to get as much done during that 30 minutes. And I think that's a really great way, whether you are ADD or I think we're all ADD in this. I think it's hard not to be.
Yeah. Your point about having systems and structure is key, because there was one of my clients called me and said she was doing really well with lots of clients, but the amount of workload on her, she was like crumbling, because she didn't have any systems in place to handle the workload. So her foundation wasn't strong enough. So the first thing I had her do was track her time for a week. And she really fought me on it, but I finally got her to do it. And she said it was eye-opening on where she was spending her time.
Yes. And I always have people, if they're struggling with that, like you do a time tracker, and people avoid that because they're like, oh, I'm not spending my time in, time suck places. But if you commit to writing each one of those tasks down, and this is another great activity if you don't understand what you should delegate. It's a great activity for that too, because you can kind of see where your time's being spent and then put $1 per hour on those tasks, because some of those tasks probably shouldn't be doing, but a lot of them you may not even realize that you're doing them, or how much time you're spending on them, or how many times a day. And that's a great way to use Rescue app, like how many times a day I'm on Facebook or I'm in my email box. Whereas if I could just do that a couple times a day with a little more focused intention, it's going to be probably more productive too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I agree. I do know the Pomodoro technique. I think it's a really cool concept. Like, it's named after literally the tomato timer, right? That the kitchen timer, which I think is really cool. And on what was it? Tracking and writing down your sort of like systems and processes. That's another first step in either delegating or outsourcing, right? So it's what are those tasks that you do all the time? Kind of make sure that you've got them very well documented. Even sort of like video screen. I do a lot of screen capture technique in my business. So not reinventing the wheel every time that same task kind of comes to you, and then also being able to hand that off to someone else if you're going to save some time and pay someone to do it.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's good.
I do that video stuff too, because that was a big challenge for me, was handing over things. I didn't know how to do it, or I held on to things for a very long time. And so it was almost habitual for me to do some of those things, right? Like I just do them second nature now, and that becomes a habit. And it's like, oh, we need to check in, and like, are these habits that we need to keep? Because someone else could probably do them for us and save us time, save us energy. We could be doing the more the tasks that only we can do, or a little more high dollar tasks. But especially for early entrepreneurs, they don't think that they can afford to outsource some of these things. And I'm like, you can't afford not to outsource some of those things if you have set a goal to make X amount of dollars next year and you're doing $5 an hour tasks.
Right.
Don't expect to make $500.
What software are
right?
you using? Jing or Camtasia, or what do you use to document video screen capture?
I just use Zoom meetings, so I can go into a Zoom meeting by myself and just share the screen. That's usually the way that I record. I don't know if Patty, you do something different.
She froze there for a second. Yeah, I've heard about Jing, which is 5 minutes at a time. Then Camtasia is more for recording like a class for someone, perhaps, but you could do it also for your processes.
Right. And that's why I just start like Zoom. The basic version is free. You can go to zoommeeting.us, I think it is. And it has video or audio only, and you can screen share as well as show your face if you wanted to talk to camera at some point. And then it records it automatically, and I just can send it over. So that's
cool.
Good.
All right.
Way.
Yeah, I use both Camtasia and then also Snagit does a pretty good job at doing the screen capture now. I also use that for screen grabs as also, but the video is actually pretty good. And then Camtasia, I usually just put to YouTube, a private link YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where do you host your videos? Do you use YouTube or Vimeo?
I host mine on Wistia.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because that's like where I host my online course. Like there's lots of videos. And so I host them in Wistia and then embed them over in my membership area. So that's been a good tool for me.
Excellent. So what about planning? When do you plan? What's your habit? My habit is like Sunday night. So I know what's happening for the week. What do you do?
Yes. So I work off of like a 90-day goals. I always recommend people do 90-day goal setting versus 1 year. I think episode 57 of my podcast, I talk about why 90-day goals are better. Your brain just works better that way. And then I reverse engineer those into my months. So I'll go for a 90-day. I'll break it up into the months. Then I break it up into week, like what I'm going to do. I don't usually do that for the whole 3 months, but I'll do it for the current month. Like, okay, this is my main focus this week, my main focus next week. And then on Sunday nights, I do my 3 main intentions for the week. So the 3 like bigger things that I want to accomplish, or I at least want to make some major traction on. And then every day I do what's called my most important mission. So instead of having this like running long to-do list, I have laid out the night before. I kind of, in my mind, I don't necessarily sit down, but every night I always look at my calendar for the next day. And I do that on Sunday night too. I want to see what I have going on this week. When people tell me that they don't look at their calendar, I'm like, it gives me anxiety. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I have to know, right? And if something pops up for me, I just know that my personality type, like that throws me off and it can put me in a bad mood. Like, even if it's okay, like even if my time is like not dedicated to something else during that hour, like if something just pops up, it gives me anxiety. And so it's better for me to like plan out the week and really see what's happening that week. And then the night before I do the same thing and I look for, if I don't have clients or if I don't have podcast interviews or something like this, then I'm looking for chunks of time and I decide what is my most important mission for that day. So that if I do anything that day, that's the thing that has to get done. And that has made me a better decision maker in my business. And it gives me momentum, because if I can do that one thing, especially I recommend doing this at the beginning of your day when you have that energy and excitement versus this black cloud sitting over you. Like, I know I need to do this thing today. Just get it done first. And that gives you momentum to do other things. So my most important mission, I set it every single day. And at least I know, because life happens, right? If you don't get like all 10 things done that you wanted to, at least you got the most important one done. And that's been huge for me. Patty, how about you?
Yeah, what is the name of that? Is that something like Eat the Frog, or what is that?
Oh, I don't know.
There's a book about doing, maybe it's a little bit different, but it's about doing that one task that either you're not looking forward to, or is less fun, or is more challenging, kind of like eat the frog first and then kind of
get the prince later.
I'm probably screwing up the metaphor, but it's a book, right? Do you know what I'm talking about, Jamie?
No.
I think I've heard that book, but I have not read it, but I should.
I have to look it up.
But I know what you're saying.
I think it's a thing. It's eat that frog, right?
It's a thing now.
Yeah.
Gosh dang it. Oh, here it is. Is this okay? No, this is going to make me crazy. I'm going to have to look it up. Yeah, hey, listen, if I was getting, stop procrastinating, get more done in less time, I'll throw this link here. Just so you don't think I'm frog obsessed.
I've heard of it. I haven't read it though.
Yeah, no, I am really scattered. I don't even want to pretend to be an expert in any of this. So I've got my Post-it notes, my sticky notes. I even get really big sticky notes to put my little sticky notes on. I mean, I'm a little bit of a mess, especially someone who was a project manager for many years in consulting. So for me, it's a lot of, I do find myself putting out some fires. I do need some help getting organized. I look at my client set and I'm kind of tackling what's kind of, like I said, on fire, spinning plates, all the metaphors for that. So I'm here to listen and learn and take some notes. But I think I'm going to jump out. I'm going to let you guys go. I'm going to listen and sit here and eat my ice cream.
Sounds good. See ya.
Bye, Patty. Good to meet you. I think that's important to give yourself a little bit of grace about, because Patty, I came from a role where I worked on lean manufacturing, like Six Sigma type stuff, where basically efficiency was my job. And sometimes I'd look around my workspace and I'm like, what is going on here, right? Like, not everything has a place, and everything is supposed to have a place when you work in like lean stuff. And so, sometimes, and so I actually was talking to someone yesterday about inbox zero. I do not have an inbox zero right now. And that's something that I do want to have. And what it's going to take is for me to sit down. I'm going to have to dedicate literally a few hours to catching up on that so that I can get to the zero and then keep it at the zero, right? So Patty, if you're like sometimes feeling like you're putting out fires, sometimes it's like, okay, I'm going to need to set aside like 4 or 5 days or a day every week for the next month, just to kind of catch up on some stuff so that you can arrange it, but don't expect it to happen in like one day. But it's going to be so much easier to upkeep once you get it that way, so that you're not always putting out fires, because a lot of times we do feel like we're constantly playing catch up. I feel like that sometimes too. And we have to set aside the time. Like I said, maybe it's one day a week or one morning a week where you're like, okay, these are the things I need to get ahead on so that I'm not always behind. And one of those things is, for me right now, I think I'm at 70 something emails in my inbox, and I need to go through and
oh, you don't. Let's see. Oh, let me look at my phone. Hold on.
What's your...
How many unread? Okay. 2,638.
Oh, so you're gonna have to set aside a few days, but a lot of those are probably like trash that you were like, oh, I'm gonna read this later. Yes,
that's actually, I started yesterday unsubscribing from things that are not serving me, creating folders, creating filters so that things are automatically put into those folders, perhaps missing the inbox if I don't need to read it right away. So that's what I'm working on. So my goal is that by January 1st, I have all my structures in place, one of which is a clean inbox, because that way I can hit the ground running on January 1. Well, January 3rd.
Yeah, I think that's a huge, like a really good thing to be aware of. And sometimes people are like, oh, I'm just not organized. And it's like, it's okay. Like, you can, especially as an entrepreneur, we have to understand what our strengths and what our weaknesses are. But you don't have to be organized necessarily, but you might have to have someone help you become more organized, right? Or figure out, okay, what are the things I want to do that would help me not be putting fires out all the time. it might be inbox zero. Like for me, I've missed emails and I'm like, dang it, I should have responded to that. Like then it makes me feel bad. And so I'm like thinking about what are the things that make me feel bad and how can I tackle those in advance? And it's hitting that inbox and making sure that, and when he told me that yesterday on that interview, I was like, oh, that's been something I've been avoiding. And it just seems very taxing to think about getting to inbox zero. He's like, I try and get to inbox zero 3 times a day. And I'm like, I'm not going to be that obsessed with it. I don't really care. But if I could do it once a day so that I'm every 24 hours at least following up with people, right? That would be a great
Because you don't want to miss those key important emails. Yeah, hey, I want to hire you right now. Email back. But it would be very remiss of me as somebody that owns a networking organization to not say that a habit of a successful entrepreneur is to surround yourself with supportive people and to be a part of a network that can help you move forward, right?
Oh, yes. I mean, and that's one of the things that people say to me all the time. I think it's something that I have really developed as part of my goals for myself. So what are your goals? If your goals are to be a successful entrepreneur, it's definitely going to be surrounding yourself with people who are doing what you want to be doing. They are, positive. They're big goal setters. They're moving forward, achieving, like really helping you grow, because if you're going to surround yourself with people who are not making those big steps forward or not challenging and stretching themselves, then you're just going to be okay. And I talk about how I always used to play sports on the boys teams because I was the worst player, right?
It raised the bar,
and not
right.
It raised the bar. I practiced better, which meant that when I eventually played with the girls during games, I was the best one on the team, right? And I think that's how you have to, like, if you're the best person in the room, you're in the wrong room, right? Like you need to be in another room. And it's like, that's how we can come back to our clients and help push them even further and help them reach their potential. So yeah, it's definitely, I would say some key successful habits are surrounding yourself with people that, are going to move you forward, learning, but not over consuming. Like you have to be someone who's willing to grow and understand that you don't know everything. And so you're kind of a lifelong learner as an entrepreneur, but you have to be someone who's willing to master things, because if you're going to try to consume everything, you're going to be mediocre at a lot of
put
things.
Put it into action, right? Just never implement what you've learned.
Exactly. And being resilient is another key to being a successful entrepreneur. Whenever I interview people, the people who have the most failures have the most successes, right? And so it's like you have to be able to get back up whenever something doesn't work out, and really treat everything like an experiment. That's definitely a habit.
I love that.
Of a successful
I'm totally a jump off the cliff, find the parachute later person. I'm like, I'll figure it out. Just go for it.
I know. I tell people, I'm like, take action, think about it later, right? Like, it's better to go out and do it. Can't hurt, might help is typically what we want to think about. Probably won't hurt. People are like, oh, should I do this or do this, or should I wait for this time? Just do it. Just do something. And I guarantee that doing something it's going to help you understand one way or another, whether that was the right thing or the wrong thing. You're more clear on which direction you want to go. So taking action to me is like the successful habit of an entrepreneur, like in anything, not even just entrepreneurship. Like things can be great or bad in theory, but you'll never know unless you take some action on them. So yeah, those are all really good tips for habits that you might want to start creating, and how can you surround yourself with people that are doing those things already? Yeah.
Some people hold back. It's all about status quo because they're not willing to invest in themselves or their business. So then they don't know how to move forward and take action. So they're kind of stuck. It's like a catch-22. I'm like, you got to invest in yourself and then apply what you've learned and just keep moving forward every day, a little bit.
Yeah. And that's why I talk about like the most important mission. And so it's like, if you can take one step forward every single day, you will get to where you want to go. Like it might take you longer than you thought. And for me, investing has shortened my learning curve, right? Like it's shortened the time in which I could achieve the things I wanted to achieve. I always tell people like, you probably can do it on your own. It's just going to take you a lot longer, and that's up to you, right? Like it's up to you if you want to do it on your own, or you can learn from someone who's already done it, and that's going to go quicker and be less frustrating and probably less expensive in the long run.
One of my favorite graphics, I've shared it on social media a few times, is if things aren't working out for you, try doing what your coach told you to in the first place. I find that fun.
Yeah, that's probably true, right? And taking action on the things we already know that we are supposed to be doing and kind of avoiding. And that's another habit to my success is whenever I notice that I'm procrastinating on something, I will block out time for that specific thing. And whether it's I'm working on a book proposal. And so I told my fiance, I said, I need to go to like Starbucks for 12 hours or something one day, because that's just how I work better, is like when I can like be in it all day. And I was like, so I need to just block off that time because I keep avoiding it, because
right? And then you do it and you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad at all.
Exactly. So like thinking about what are the things that I've been avoiding? Why am I avoiding them? And if I just sat down and blocked off some time, you could probably get through that thing. And then afterwards you're like, oh, why didn't I do that a month ago?
I agree. Yeah. This is great. So how do we find your podcast? Do we just search for?
Yeah, you can in iTunes, you can search, the School of Self-Mastery or Adrienne Dorison. It'll pop up, or you can go to, I'll post my, website in here, and there's a link for the podcast on the website as well. And if you're not an iTunes person, you can also search and find it on Stitcher, or you can listen actually on the actual website. So
how long have you been doing it?
Way. I've been doing it since the end of July. It went live, and it's 5 days a week. So I've done like over 100 interviews under my belt, which is just crazy to me. Like it's been such a great learning experience for me. And, I can see myself becoming a better interviewer, and that's the key to becoming a successful entrepreneur. Create those habits where you're doing things over and over again, and you will get better at them, right? That's the thing with habits is sometimes we love being good at things, right? And when we're not good at something at first, sometimes we'll quit, and you're not going to be good at everything from the start. And so you might not enjoy it, but you will get better if you keep doing it. So
you have to just kind of laugh at yourself and learn from it. The first time I went on TV, I had no voice. I talk like this. I was like, wow, okay, got to go up from there.
Great, yeah.
So how can I help you? Because I know a lot of people. So do you need guests? And if so, what kind of guests are you looking for?
Yeah, that's also been the greatest networking tool for me, right? Is the podcast, because with a daily podcast, I have 3 interviews a week and 2 episodes with me a week. And I am in constant need of what I call interesting humans. I like people that are, have some sort of story, or they have an expertise of some sort that we can share with my audience. And I like for that expert to really give actionable tips that my audience can take away. So most of my audience are entrepreneurs. If they're not entrepreneurs, they're at least looking to become their best selves in their career or in their personal life. And so it is really just about becoming your best self. It doesn't necessarily need to be about entrepreneurship. I've interviewed athletes, I've interviewed, health people and all sorts of different genres.
But really into having successful people on the podcast. So it's each person's story and how they've achieved success in their way.
Yes. And so it's talking about their journey towards success. And then, we talk about their expertise for a bit. And then at the end, I have questions that I talk about habits of success, the thing, how they really define success, because it's always very different. And so we're always looking at people and we're like, oh, they're successful. And it's like, well, what does success mean? Right. So we talk about that. And then we talk about their personal success habits that they have around money, because I love talking about money, habits that they have, on a daily basis that help them create more success, bad habits that they have, and really what they, it's just kind of a pulling back of the veil, making it a little more open to talk about what we do to create more success for ourselves. And these people are typically people that we would say they are successful, right? And so what does that look like for them?
I'll post the replay in my network group, because I think you have a bunch of people that would reach out and share their story and see if it's a good fit. But the first person that came to mind is Laura Barry. She has a book called The Center of Me, and it's about how to replace the inner critic with a self-coach so that you can be happier and have more success in life. So I think she'd be perfect.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. I would love that. I interviewed authors all the time, and I think that is really good. That would be a good fit. What's a surprise habit you've heard that was unexpected?
Good question.
Oh, that is a good question. So things that throw me off are things like surfing. Surfing was someone's Srini Rao. I don't know if you know Srini Rao from the Unmistakable Creative podcast. He's a very well-known podcaster and author of a few books, and surfing was one of his habits that helps him create more success. Oh, you had dinner with him once.
Oh, wow.
He's really cool, Patty, isn't he? He and I've read his book, and surfing honestly changed his life. And so now I understand it, but I was like, oh, it's interesting. But it is, so unique to people. One of, I would say, is this live only for the ladies? No.
Oh. Well, as far as going on camera, I only allow my premium members of Network Now to come on camera. But you are welcome to be in the chat.
There you go. You gotta be
network and contribute in the chat.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think of like a really strange habit, but a lot of them are things like, well, one of them, Kimra Luna is an entrepreneur who's achieved really incredible success over the past year, and she's like, I do not meditate, and I hate deadlines. Like those are the things that like throw her off. Like she can't do deadlines, and so a habit for her was, really not setting deadlines and planning way in advance. Like she was recording stuff for her course and her launch that's going to go live in February. And she was recording this stuff back in July, because she was like, I know that I need to set up those things now, because if a deadline comes up, I just can't do it. And that's not how she wants to deliver to her audience. And so she knows what works for her and what does not work for her. And that's definitely one of those things. It's always the non-practical things are always the most interesting to me. Like the woo-woo stuff is so not my realm that I'm always like, interesting. but there's always surprising ones for sure. I get a lot of exercise. One of them said inversion. He does inversion where he lays upside down every morning, like from his moon boots or whatever, gravity boots.
What about Tony Robbins? He has that habit. He jumps in like freezing cold water, then hot water, then meditates.
Every morning.
He has like this. Yeah, I'm not jumping. I don't care what it does. I'm not jumping in any cold water. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so they're always different, which is cool. Some of them are drinking a liter of water in the morning, and that's just as much of a success habit as reading every day for an hour. So they're wide ranging. Really cool.
You should. Yeah, this should turn into a book.
Drink tons of coffee, Patty said.
And I eat ice cream, apparently.
Yeah, that's definitely been, coffee has been one of them. There is a book coming,
awesome.
so that will
cool.
be in the future.
Pat, you should see Patty. She's like this tiny little thing. So her eating ice cream is funny. It's like, darn her. Like, what are you doing, like 100 pounds?
You got to do what works for you, right, Patty? Yeah.
I could pick her up, let's just say. All right. Well, any final words? I think this was great. Very helpful.
Yeah, this was fun. Thanks for having me on. If anyone has any interesting success habits that they want to share or that they have, like you said, Jamie, if you know anyone that has something interesting to share with my audience in terms of their story to success. I think that's always, helpful for other people to hear that it's doesn't look the same way for everyone. I'd love to connect with them. It's a big part of being a successful entrepreneur.
I'll make that happen.
So thank you. And thanks for showing up, Patty.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.